Okay, this is going to explain to y'all how to create a dance for PE, elementary or secondary, lower elementary included. The first thing that you need to understand is your music choice. The music that you pick needs to not have any explicit language in it, nor should it have any implied meaning that is not appropriate for these kids. The best way to do this, I found, is to listen with your headphones on because you hear a lot of words with your headphones that you don't hear through regular speakers. Also, if you listen to it from a teacher perspective, as if you have kids in front of you, you are going to hear a lot of words and phrases and things that you have never heard before. So that is a very important part about the music choice. Another part about the music choice is you need to pick songs that they are familiar with, and you need to understand your demographic area. If you pick a song from the 70s, these kids are not going to want to dance to it even though it's your favorite song ever. So it needs to be something that they can relate to. Another really important thing when you're teaching dance is picking some dance moves that they can relate to. Everybody nowadays is on TikTok, and everybody's doing these real fast, fancy dance moves. And most of the songs that they're doing these real fast, fancy dance moves, most of those songs are inappropriate. You can find some cleaner versions of these songs if you search. However, some of the dance moves are very vulgar and inappropriate, even though the kids at elementary school are doing them, and all of a sudden this vulgar movement has now become the norm. But it's not the norm in education. So you can use TikTok as a great starting point for your research on the dance moves. Social media is also a good place to look. It's also a bad place to look. It depends on where you look. So I would start with searching physical education dances or elementary dances and go from there. If you know students or have kids or have neighbors or have friends with kids who are elementary, middle school age, ask them what kind of songs they like, what kind of dance moves are going on, where they get their music from, and use them as resources, because those are the students that you're teaching and you need to meet them where they are. For this assignment, you cannot use any pre-made dances such as the cha-cha slide or Cupid shuffle or things like that, where the song is telling you what you're doing. This is a creative assignment for this class, and you are going to create a dance. Now, in the future, when you're teaching physical education and you're teaching dance, and you want to pop that song on to waste a couple of minutes before it's time to go, and they know the cha-cha slide and they know the Cupid shuffle, that's great. But for this assignment, no, we're not taking the easy way out. Okay, the next thing you need to be able to do is hold a steady beat. And what that means is clapping, clapping, stomping, clapping, moving, clapping to the beat. All right, you may not be best at this. This may not be your strong point in life. So what do you have to do? You have to practice. Okay, some of us come by steady beat more naturally than others. You don't have to look good doing it. You just have to move. Okay, so whatever the beat is to the music, you need to be able to keep a steady beat. You need to also learn and memorize the dance steps of the dance that you are going to be creating. You have to know the dance and know the names of the dance, the skill cues, and how to perform the 8-count dance steps before you're able to teach them. So this is something that needs to be practiced and rehearsed and researched. Now, if you look towards the bottom of the page, you'll see a box that says, why do we teach dance? And I'm not going to read the box to you. You can pause this screencast and read it yourself. But it does so much for kids. It gives kids an opportunity to express themselves besides the athletic ones who want to play sports. It gives them a chance to listen to steady beat, gives them a chance to have fun. Music is fun. Music makes everything fun. It shows them activities that they can do for a lifetime. We're not always going to have a group of friends that we can play 5-on-5 pickup basketball, but we're always going to have music in our lives. And music makes us move. Music is part of life. And for them to feel confident enough to turn on a song that they're familiar with, or hear something on the radio, or hear something at a party, or go into a wedding reception or anything, and they're like, hey, I did that dance. It gives them a little bit of confidence in life, and that is your job as a physical education teacher. Okay, one of the hardest things that you're going to have to learn, and this usually takes a lot of time, and in this short dance unit that we're having, you are obviously not going to become the most skilled at this, but we have to learn this, and it's called mirroring the students. And once you have created your dance and you know your dance from a perspective of side by side with your classmates, you are going to have to turn around and face your students or your classmates, and you are going to have to teach and cue the dance as you're facing them, which means if you are doing a move that normally you would go right for your first step, when you're facing the students, you're going to hold up your left hand and you're going to say, we're going to move right, while you're holding up your left hand. So this is a hard concept, and it takes a lot of practice. So this is one thing that is important about you learning your dance and practicing the mirroring so that you don't confuse your students and you're not confused. Second thing about this is keep your dances simple. The students do so much better when you just put on the music that they like and you give them 4 8 counts of some creative dance moves, and they're able to do the dances, and then just repeat the segments throughout the song. They're just having a good time, and if they feel successful with the dance moves, then they're going to like it a whole lot more. Most beginner PE dances are just simple 8 counts. A lot of the dances you see on TikTok and things like that are real fast hand motions, and you're doing some crazy things real fast. And there's even tutorials that show you how to duet and how to slow down the other side so you can learn the dance in slow motion so that you can practice it. Well, in a PE setting for 30 minutes, we don't have time for all that. Your job is to get them up, teach them some 8 counts, turn on some music, get them moving, get them smiling, and get them to learn the dance. Every 8 count should be a new dance step. So it should change after every 8 count. So for instance, if you're just doing a 32 count dance, which is very basic, you should have 4 different 8 counts. So that's just an example. Now, and also in order to keep the kids engaged in this, your dance needs to have some variety. You don't need to have a whole bunch of dance moves where they're just going side to side, and side to side, and side to side, or a whole bunch of moves where they're just going forward and back, and things like that. Take some of these little dances and dance steps that you've learned from these various platforms and sources and resources, and put these moves together so that the kids are engaged. If you notice, there is a continuing word I keep using, or theme. It's engaging the kids, having fun, meeting the kids where they are. Okay? It's very, very important. What's also extremely important, and what you have learned so far this semester, is you have to have modifications pre-planned for on the spot. You need to come to class with 3 or 4 or 5 songs of different tempos and beats and genres that you can use right there on your playlist if the kids are not responding. If you turn on a song and you think it's going to be the greatest thing ever and the kids are like, oh my gosh, no, then it's going to be miserable if you just keep playing it. Okay? So you need to be able to switch it up. If you turn on a song and you thought it was the most awesome tempo of a beat and they can't keep up, you need to have some modifications to slow it down. So those are very important. Also, another reason that we teach dance at the bottom, and just like everything else that we do in physical education, is it's all related back to standards. And I have copy and pasted the standards on here just for you. There's K-5 standards, there's 6 through 8 standards, and there's beginning kinesiology standards. These are required in the state of Alabama, and these are consistent and lined up with the SHAPE standards that are national physical education standards. So this is an important component of physical education if you're going to be a quality PE teacher. Okay, I talked about this a little bit in the last slide, but in order to keep the kids' attention, you have to be able to modify. It has to have the correct pace. And in order for you to know if it has the correct pace, you need to get up and dance with it. If you're having trouble keeping up with the moves, with that pace, then it's probably too fast. If you're shuffling your feet and you can't remember and you're having to think quick, the kids aren't going to be able to keep up with it. A good thing to do is maybe grab a kid in your neighborhood, find a kid, practice it, get your parents up, whatever. Just find somebody, a classmate, a teammate, anybody, and see if they can keep up with it. Some people may not be as coordinated in dance, and those are the greatest ones to help teach, because then you know if your dance is appropriate. It needs to have an appropriate beat, not only the pace but the beat. Okay, some songs change tempo and rhythm throughout the song, like the mashups, like Party Rock Anthem or things like that. They start out as one thing and they change to another. Those are great songs, but they're very difficult to dance to. Another example of one that's difficult to dance to that does not have a consistent beat is Michael Jackson's Thriller. It's a great song, but it just is very difficult to continue having an 8 count to. So those are all things that you need to be considering when you're picking a song. And song choice is going to be the hardest part of this. Again, you need to have several modifications on hand. I can never emphasize modifications and modifying enough, okay? And you need to have some slower moves for younger students or less skilled students. So those also need to kind of be written down on hand, where you know if they can't do a grapevine, for instance, or they can't do a step ball change or things that you're going to learn it by reading the bottom of this screencast and we're going to practice in class. If they're not able to do that, there is a modification for that, just like everything else we do. You don't have to totally scratch it, but you need to be able to modify up or down according to the skill level, and that may change from hour to hour as you teach. One of the most important things that you will do is cue. Cue, cue, cue. What is a cue? Cue means to tell them what they're doing before they're doing it. When you're dancing, you need to be able to know your dance well enough to tell them 4 counts ahead of time when they're going to make their next move. So for instance, and I have at the bottom of this little box, and 5, 6, 7, 8, that's when you are cueing. So if they're doing a grapevine and they're going 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left, as they're coming back to the left on 5, 6, 7, and 8, you are already pointing or telling them where they're going next. If it's backwards, you're pointing your hands. If it's forward, you're pointing your hands. So you're letting them know, so they know their next move. You don't wait till they get there on 8 and then say, okay, come forward, because they're going to be behind. Again, this is something that you have to practice. Practice, practice, practice. You need to tell them the cues with your words, just like any other subject or unit that we've taught. You need to tell them with your words, and you need to show them with your hands. So it's always directions and demo. It's always show and tell. This gives them students time to adjust from one movement to another, keeps the dance flowing, keeps your head fresh so you know what you're doing, and keeps the students on task. This is very difficult. We will practice this in class. Something else that's very cool about teaching dance is it goes across all grade levels. You can take a dance, and what I'm going to have you do is you're going to create a middle elementary school dance, like 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. That will be your assignment coming up. But while you're in class, you're going to take that dance and you're going to make it easier for K through 2 through some modifications and maybe some music changes and a little bit of dance move changes or tempo changes. And once you have that, you're going to teach it for 7th, 8th, 9th. Make it harder. Maybe change the music a little bit. Definitely make the dance moves harder. Create some additional counts, face some different directions. So you can take one dance, just like your regular lesson plans that I've been telling you, and through your modifications, both down and up, this lesson can last across grade levels and over several days. Okay, so you can flip it. Now, at the bottom of the screen, there are a bunch of terminology, dance terminology words. We will go through these in class. However, I would like for you to look through them and have a general understanding of what these are before you get to class on Monday. I don't expect you to be professional dancers when you get there, but I do expect you to be familiar with the words and the wording down here. And finally, keep it simple. This is the exact same thing I said on the first screen, but simple is best. Use moves from a variety of dances. This is a repetitive thing throughout the screencast, and obviously relate to the students. Keep it simple. Also, this is really important too. Make it fun. You may hate doing dance, but I don't care. You still have to teach it. There are things that you are going to like more than others. There's things that students are going to like more than others. No matter what you're teaching, you have to bring it to the students as the greatest thing ever. So even though you are uncomfortable, you may be intimidated, you may be a little scared up there trying to do this subject that you've never done before. You are going to be way out of your comfort zone if this is the first time you've ever taught it, but you can't let that show. You have to get up and you have to sell it to the students. You have to know it. You have to be silly. You have to cut up with them. You have to mess up with them and then tell them you messed up and then laugh about it. You got to have fun. You got to let them kind of add some fun dance moves to it, and if they're adding a little flair to it, you need to go with it. The more fun you have up there with them, the more fun they're going to have, and it's going to be an exciting time. If you're up there stiff and scared and your voice is shuddering and you're afraid to talk loud and they can't hear you and you're barely moving your hands, pointing, and they don't know what you're doing and you're acting like, oh my God, I'm afraid, then the whole atmosphere of the dance is going downhill. So how successful this is when you teach students is how much you embrace it and how much fun you have. You're going to have to come way out of your comfort zone. You're going to have to put on a smiling face. You're going to have to shake your booty, and you're going to have to have some fun, okay? And if you can't count to 8, we're going to have a problem, because if you can count to 8, you got this, all right? And at the bottom, there's some more terminology. A lot of this we're going to talk about. These are skill cues. These are some, when you are creating your dance for class, these are some of the things that I would like to see incorporated in your dance. Okay, so I have given you a lot of context here. You can replay this screencast as much as you want. Listen to me on repeat. That's great. You can't ever get rid of me. But in class, first thing we're gonna get going with this. So be ready, have your dance moves ready, have your smiling face on, have your music, and we're gonna get going.